about the absolute loudest, like most visually chaotic event you attended back in, say, 2019 or 2020?
Oh, yeah. Sensory overload.
Right. You know, the exact vibe.
Yeah.
Neon signs just aggressively lighting up velvet walls, geometric patterns completely clashing with those massive, like, ceiling-suspended floral installations.
That was definitely an era of unapologetic maximalism.
Completely. Sensory overload was essentially the entry fee back then. The design world was basically shouting over a crowded room just to get your attention.
Yeah, everything was turned up to 11.
Exactly. But now I want you to imagine the exact opposite. Imagine walking to a space where the ultimate luxury isn't noise, but, well, visual silence.
Which is such a massive shift.
It really is. Today, we're looking at why the volume is turning down across the board and how a very specific, deeply refreshing aesthetic has completely taken over 2026.
It's really a massive collective exhale. Because what we're seeing in the data in fashion and even in interior design is that people are fundamentally exhausted by visual noise.
Oh, absolutely. I feel that in my own life.
Right. They are actively seeking out environments that naturally lower their heart rate.
And that is the exact mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring the explosive rise of an aesthetic that's formerly known as soft feminine minimalism, with subtle pops of color.
A bit of a mouthful, but incredibly accurate.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to figure out how this specific trend is completely redefining what modern elegance looks like. We're looking at how it balances sheer, unadulterated simplicity with highly intentional accents.
The intention is key there.
Definitely. But most importantly, we're going to look under the hood of the absolute engine driving this movement. We're going to examine how a platform called Weddizer has basically become the ultimate creative hub.
It's essentially the architectural blueprint for this whole movement.
It really is. It's bringing this aesthetic out of the digital ether and into the real world. Okay, let's unpack this. Because for an audience that already tracks design and trends, we know traditional minimalism, right?
Oh, for sure. The early 2000s style.
Yeah, that harsh, clinical, empty white box style.
Right.
But this is entirely different.
Completely different. And that is a really crucial distinction to make right away. I mean, if the minimalism of 20 years ago was about subtraction just for the sake of subtraction.
Right, like getting rid of things just to prove you could.
Exactly. Stripping a room down until it felt almost utilitarian or, sterile. But this 2026 movement is entirely about refinement.
Refinement. I like that.
Yeah, it uses restraint as a tool to highlight warmth. It actively pushes back against starkness.
Let me try out an analogy here. Traditional, stark minimalism-like, the kind where a person hides their toaster and only owns one highly geometric fork.
Yeah, the museum vibe.
Right. It always feels to me like an empty, echoing art gallery after hours. Like it's objectively cool to look at, but you wouldn't actually want to take a nap there.
No, not at all.
But this new, soft, feminine trend, it feels like a cozy, sunlit reading nook. It's intentionally understated, sure, but it's gentle, it's romantic, rather than cold. You actually want to linger in it.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it, honestly, because the mechanics of how this trend achieves that sunlit nook feeling come down to the physics of texture and light.
Okay, the physics of it. Tell me more about that.
Well, if you look at the materials dominating the style, you aren't seeing stiff, highly structured fabrics or high-gloss surfaces that reflect light in a harsh way.
Right, no aggressive shine.
Exactly. You are seeing chiffon, you are seeing raw silk, you're seeing incredibly delicate lace. These are textiles that actually absorb light and create a soft, inviting glow.
And it's not just the fabrics, right? The colors are the exact same thing. Like, instead of a stark, blinding hospital white, the foundational canvas relies on warm neutrals.
Yes, the warmth is everything.
We were talking about, ivory, beige, blush, and cream.
Exactly. Because an ivory silk drape changes the entire atmosphere of a room compared to, say, a stark white polyester curtain.
Oh, 100%.
One feels utilitarian, but the other feels luxurious, grounded, and welcoming. And why does this shift matter to you, the person listening right now?
Yeah, why should we care?
Well, whether you're planning a massive event, rethinking your living room, or just trying to edit your closet, understanding this shift matters because it creates a perfectly balanced aesthetic.
It's not intimidating.
Right. It allows for a high level of elegance without ever feeling excessive. It's approachable luxury.
Right, it's welcoming.
Yeah.
But here is the massive practical hurdle I always think about. I look at an ivory and beige mood board, and I understand the theory of this beautiful, neutral, soft base.
Sure.
But how do you actually execute this without it devolving into a beige blur? Like, how do you keep it from feeling completely bland and devoid of personality?
That is the big question.
And I think this leads us directly to the role of Weddizer
Mm.
and the absolute magic of the pops of color.
Yes. This is where the execution really becomes an art form. The phrase minimalism doesn't mean colorless is really the governing law of this whole aesthetic.
And Weddizer has essentially written the rule book on how to apply that law. I mean, Weddizer isn't just a basic inspiration gallery anymore.
Far from it.
It's a highly sophisticated visual planning engine. It has become the absolute go-to platform showcasing real, curated, minimalist events. When you log on to Weddizer, you aren't just looking at isolated pictures of dresses or tables.
You're seeing the whole interconnected environment.
Exactly. They map out the entire aesthetic. And the way their platform curates these ideas highlights that the real magic, the thing that honestly saves this aesthetic from being boring, lies in deeply strategic color accents.
And those accents have to be calibrated perfectly. You don't take a beautiful cream and ivory room and just throw a neon green chair in the middle of it.
Exactly. The popular accent colors Weddizer has identified for 2026 are highly specific. We were talking about dusty rose, sage green, powder blue, lavender, and champagne gold.
Notice the psychological profile of those specific colors, too. They're diluted hues. They're muted.
Right, they aren't screaming at you.
Exactly. Dusty rose instead of fuchsia. Sage green instead of emerald. A heavily diluted hue naturally lowers the heart rate, whereas a saturated primary color naturally spikes it.
That makes so much sense.
Right. By using these muted tones, the color enhances the design rather than hijacking your visual cortex.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit, though.
Okay, go for it.
Because, as beautiful as that sounds, part of me wonders about the motivation here. Is relying on these subtle pops of color, like a tiny hint of sage green here, a little whisper of lavender there, is that actually just a safe way out?
A safe way out.
Yeah, like, is it a creative cop-out for people who are secretly too afraid to commit to a bold, loud, personalized theme?
What's fascinating here is that the exact opposite is true.
Really?
Yeah. If you analyze the real-world event data and the environments Weddizer is curating, the restriction of color is actually a massive design flex. It requires significantly more prowess.
Wait, really? How is using less color a flex? I would think more color is harder to manage.
Well, think about it this way. When you have a loud, maximalist theme, let's say an entirely hot pink room with disco balls and neon signs.
Sounds like a headache, but okay.
Right. But in that room, the theme speaks louder than the people in it. The sheer volume of the design actually covers up any imperfections. It just takes over everything.
Ah, I see. It hides the flaws.
Exactly. But when you create a completely neutral, impeccably clean canvas, you are fully exposing the bones of the design.
There's nowhere to hide.
Exactly. So when you intentionally introduce just a subtle pop of champagne gold in the embroidery, or a single hint of powder blue in a floral arrangement, that choice becomes hyper-visible.
Oh, wow.
It becomes a true signature. It anchors the entire room. It shows immense confidence to say, I don't need to scream to be noticed. I only need a whisper.
Wow. Okay, a whisper of color instead of a shout? That makes
Yeah.
total sense. It's like a chef using, one perfectly sourced truffle instead of burying a dish in 10 different heavy sauces.
That is a perfect comparison.
The confidence is in the restraint. So because Weddizer has shifted the focus to these subtle color anchors in the room, it completely changes what people actually wear within that room, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The wardrobe has to adapt.
Right, because you can't put a loud, overly structured 2010s ball gown inside that delicate sunlit space without causing massive visual friction. Let's look at the anatomy of the 2026 bridal look.
The wardrobe really has to seamlessly interact with the environment. And what we are seeing is that modern brides are aggressively prioritizing physical ease.
Comfort, finally.
Yes, they are moving away from heavy, cumbersome gowns with massive trains and rigid corsetry.
The defining mantra here is that comfort finally meets style. When you look at the silhouettes trending on Weddizer, it is all about A-line or sheath styles.
Very fluid lines.
Thin straps or off the shoulder cuts, soft draping, very minimal lace or embroidery. And there's a real physical mechanism at play here, right?
Definitely.
When bride isn't carrying 20 pounds of tulle and rigid boning, her entire posture changes. Her breathing changes. She isn't just surviving her wardrobe, she is actually present at her own event. She can move freely.
The garments are designed to facilitate an experience, rather than just serving as a static photo opportunity. And this logic of physical and visual lightness extends directly into the accessories, too.
It totally does. The days of those Massive, heavy statement chandelier earrings are gone.
Thankfully.
Yeah. Weddizer is curating looks that feature incredibly delicate pieces. Rose gold earrings, pastel gemstone rings, instead of massive clear diamonds. And there's a reason for that too, right?
Yeah, it goes back to how materials interact with light.
Because a clear, brilliant cut diamond reflects light very sharply, which can feel a bit stark. But a pastel gemstone, like a soft sapphire or a morganite, it glows. It plays into that same warmth we talked about with the ivory silk.
Exactly. It's a much softer interaction with light. And the beauty styling follows the exact same trajectory. We are seeing a complete rejection of heavy contouring or hair that has been like sprayed into absolute rigid
Oh
submission.
man, the helmet hair.
Right. Instead, it's about natural makeup, glowing skin, a soft pink lip, a light peach blush, maybe a very subtle shimmer on the eyes. The hair is effortless, loose waves, low buns, soft braids.
Just really organic.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can really see the profound timelessness of this approach. I mean, we all know someone who looks back at photos from an event 20 years ago and visibly cringes at the over-the-top, highly frantic styling of that specific year.
The dreaded blue eyeshadow era.
Exactly. But a soft ivory gown with clean lines, loose waves, and delicate blush accents, that completely sidesteps the chaotic trend cycle. It's going to look just as elegant and feel just as breathless 4 decades from now as it does today.
Because it's not relying on a gimmick. It's relying on the absolute core fundamentals of good design, proportion, texture, and light. But the aesthetic absolutely does not stop at the dress. And this is where the genius of a platform like Weddizer really comes into focus for me.
It scales up so well.
It really does. The final step in truly understanding this movement is seeing how Weddizer guides couples to curate their entire physical environment to match that dress. Let's talk about curating the space.
Because if you have this incredibly soft, effortless breathing wardrobe, the venue has to rise to meet that exact level of ease.
And Weddizer takes the guesswork out of this by providing these brilliant algorithmic decor pairings. They teach you how to stick to a neutral base and layer gentle accents so the whole room feels cohesive.
Right.
For example, you'll see a venue styled predominantly in warm white, but grounded specifically by sage green accents, or a beige room warmed up by dusty rose, ivory paired with lavender. And the way they handle florals is fascinating to me.
Flaws have completely changed.
They heavily feature peonies, roses, baby's breath, and ranunculus. But it isn't just a list of flowers, is it? It's the mechanics of how they are arranged.
The arrangement is everything. For years, event florals were these tight, rigid, perfectly spherical globes.
They look so stiff.
They looked manufactured. What Weddizer champions is a loose, organic arrangement. The flowers are allowed to drape naturally. It mimics nature, which subconsciously signals to the human brain that the environment is safe and relaxed. It basically creates psychological ease.
And it solves a massive practical problem, too. Think about table settings. Weddizer is pushing neutral linen tablecloths and simple, elegant glassware. But the biggest shift is the centerpieces.
Oh, the centerpieces are so important.
I've always thought about traditional maximalist centerpieces as basically barricades.
Yes.
You sit down at a beautifully set table, and there is a towering, massive floral arrangement right in your face. You literally have to play peekaboo just to have a conversation with the person sitting across from you.
It creates physical isolation in a space meant for gathering. It's entirely counterproductive.
Exactly. But in this soft, feminine minimalism, you have a low, single floral centerpiece. Maybe it's mostly ivory, with just that one hint of lavender. It allows the space to breathe.
It opens everything up.
It facilitates actual human connection, because there is no visual or physical barrier between you and your guests. The design serves the people, rather than the people serving as props for the design.
That is the ultimate metric of successful modern design. Does it facilitate a better human experience?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Weddizer isn't just selling a wedding day anymore.
No, it's way bigger than that now.
By perfecting this formula of neutral bases and subtle color anchors, they are inadvertently capturing and driving a much broader, massive lifestyle shift. The concepts we are talking about are bleeding directly out of event spaces and into our everyday lives.
Which is the natural progression. If you experience that profound level of calm, intentionality, and warmth at an event, your nervous system remembers it. You naturally want to replicate that feeling on a random Tuesday in your own home.
Yes, so we are seeing this aesthetic fundamentally change everyday fashion. People are editing their closets, they're looking for everyday outfits with neutral tones and just one standout piece.
Capsule wardrobes are huge right now.
They want the soft fabrics, the relaxed fits, the minimal accessories with a subtle touch of color. And it is completely restructuring interior design too.
Absolutely.
Homes are rapidly embracing these light, airy spaces, neutral furniture, getting rid of the clutter and keeping just small decorative items in those exact same pastel shades we mentioned, the sage, the dusty rose. Weddizer has basically built a masterclass in how to declutter your visual life while simultaneously making it more beautiful and inviting.
It is a profound movement toward intentional beauty. It validates the age-old concept that less is more, but it adds a crucial caveat. Less is only more when it is paired with the precise touch of color, the perfect texture, and the right intention.
Right?
Platforms like Weddizer have evolved way beyond simple inspiration boards. They are now essential practical blueprints for achieving a highly specific, elevated quality of life.
So what does this all mean? For you, listening to this right now, whether you are in the trenches of planning a massive event or you're just standing in front of your closet feeling totally overwhelmed, or you're looking around your living room wishing it felt a little more peaceful, this deep dive offers you a very real, highly actionable blueprint.
It's a tool you can use today.
We live in an era of relentless information overload and chaotic design. This soft feminine minimalism offers a literal way out. It's an invitation to step out of that echoing, noisy, sterile gallery and step into a cozy, warm, sunlit space of your own making. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you do not have to shout to be seen. You just have to be intentional.
This raises an important question. If soft feminine minimalism strips away all the excess noise and the maximalist clutter to leave you with a perfectly neutral, calming canvas, and that one single subtle pop of color becomes your anchor, your authentic, undeniable signature, what single color would you choose to represent your personality in your own life?
That is the perfect thing to think about the next time you are staring at an empty room or a blank page. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.